was a layered operation that achieved many objectives, but it facilitated the growth of the state as well. And it facilitated that path of the dystopian nightmare, and the violation of our inherent rights. So that was an inherent example of the federal government's abuse of power.
Oh, God, tell me, do we get what we deserve? Oh, we get what we deserve.
Holy cow. About a third of the building has been blown.
And way down we go. Oh, way down we go. Say way down we go. And way down we go. Way down we go. Oh, 'cause they will run you down to the dark. Yes, then they will run you down till you fall. Oh, and they will run you down till you go. Yeah, till you can't crawl no more.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the No Way Jose podcast. Just a little quick, I guess you could say, apology or sorry for the inconvenience for any patrons who are expecting something different today. I know there was something different on the docket for today, but I already actually saw back just now a message, so we'll figure that out later. I think we're gonna reschedule. I think it was just a misunderstanding or something, but. With that, luckily, I had this solo episode in the can, so here we are again, chipping away at some more of Dr. Painting's research, and I'm happy to be here. It's good to have these two for days like this, to have one of these sitting in the can for when, hey, life happens, which is okay, but life happens, but I was prepared, and I was prepared with a Dr. Painting's thread in my back pocket. So with that, Wendy, get started on the next one. All right, I'm just playing around. Obviously, I'm sure she'll have another one out soon. If not, whatever, I'll manage. But let's go ahead and get into, as we've been doing at the beginning of each one of these episodes, let's start off with a recap of the last thread. And here we go. This is, just to remind you guys, this is from the great Wendy Painting, the author of Aberration in the Heartland of the Real, The Secret Lies of Timothy McVeigh. This is sort of, you could almost look at this as a little bit of a teaser for upcoming work of sorts. She kind of lays it out in this thread, this recap thread that we're going through right here. But let's go over, just remind you guys what we went over last episode. Part 6A, The Memory Gospel. In this thread, I recap the story of the Jacques Nichols McVeigh encounter with 3 employees of Maloney's Realty in Cassville, Missouri, as well as the FBI's investigation of and search for the Jacques character. This includes the use of a military psychologist and expert on the intelligence and counterintelligence uses of psychology, whom the FBI tasked with hypnotizing one of the Maloney Realty witnesses. The thread explores some of the apparent anomalies involved in the Jacques investigation and the use and lack thereof of the composite drawing of Jacques classified as need to know. It also criticizes and/or questions some of the decisions made in the investigation. Employing the techniques of close reading and literary deconstruction, I began to deconstruct the 3 witnesses' statements about the encounter and some of the media coverage of it, including later attempts to debunk Maloney. I emphasized some of the changes in Maloney's statements over time and some of how some of these changes and inconsistencies actually undermine debunking attempts and point to weaknesses in the FBI's Jacques investigation. The title of the thread is an homage to the 2006 film Southland Tales, which was impactful to me when it came out and remains close to my heart. I'll have to check that out. I don't believe I've heard of that film, but on her recommendation, I'm sure it's a good one. All right, let's go ahead and get into Part 6B, The Memory Gospel, a continuation of Part 6A. Maybe in the end, that's all we have. The Memory Gospel, Southland Tales 2006. And she links the first part here, and then here we go. 7. While there are more, the final example I'll offer for now of how some of Maloney's apparent inconsistencies actually undermine the reasons given to discount the Jacques sighting pertains to the car the visitors arrived in. In his detailed and generally supportive and persuasive reporting of the Maloney visit, Kevin Flynn wrote, so there are a few trouble spots in Maloney's account of the visit by McVeigh, Nichols, and Jacques. He says the men arrived in a yellow Mercury Marquis. While that matches the car in which McVeigh was arrested, he didn't own it at the time. McVeigh drove a blue Chevrolet Spectrum in November 94. He bought the Mercury 5 days before the bombing. Here's an abbreviated chronology of accounts at my disposal given by Maloney and his employees about the car. It says first known account of the car as offered by Maloney and Young on May 10th and transcribed May 15th, 1995. Here's some from, I believe, one of the 302s here. So he advised he observed the men leave and saw an older four-door sedan, color unrecalled, which seemed to sit a little low. He also recalled seeing the Mercury, which McVeigh was reportedly driving when arrested in Oklahoma, and thought the vehicle he observed was similar. He stated he noticed the three leaving because he was interested in the type of vehicle they had, due to Jack saying he had a four-wheel drive vehicle and was surprised to see the older sedan. And then here's from Nora. She was interviewed at... Okay, she recalled visiting the MR office, the Maloney Realty office, during early November 1994, at which time she noticed a vehicle parked in a small parking lot. She remembered observing a white male sitting in the front passenger seat wearing sunglasses, but could not furnish any further description of him or the vehicle. Interesting. Second known account of the car as offered by Maloney on behalf of Young on October 10th and transcribed October 11th, 1995. And here we see, it says, Nora Young had told him she now thought the car which McVeigh was sitting in had an Arizona license plate. So now we're seeing how things are, seems like we're learning more and more. Third known account of the car is written by Maloney in November 95. Now we're seeing, it says here, a Mercury Grand Marquis, four-door yellow, with the back part of the roof being of yellow vinyl. It says the car appeared to really be loaded down, and I believe had a fairly new red license tag believed to be a Missouri tag. I mentioned to Davidson that they were not driving the four-wheel vehicle or four-wheel drive, but a car, and it turned to the left from the driveway. This I am sure of because I could see more clearly how low the vehicle was riding, and the front was raised up when they accelerated and went towards Seligman. Here's a fourth known account of the car as given by Young under hypnosis. Now this is her under hypnosis. It says new information obtained during the interview was the color, make, model, and year of the vehicle, as well as a partial license plate number in which the trio traveled to Maloney Real Estate. In addition, the state from which the license plate was issued was obtained. Miss Young advised the vehicle was a cream. It cuts off a little bit there. Something cream colored, maybe, I think. 1977 Chevrolet Monte Carlo bearing an Arizona license plate. Miss Young could not recall all the letters and numbers of the license plate. She recalled the license plate included the letter A in numerals 103. So now it's a Chevy Monte Carlo. Here's the fifth and sixth known accounts of the car given by Maloney, both given by Maloney on December 10th. And now they're saying Oklahoma tag. Never mind. Here we go. Start from the beginning. It says Maloney believes that the license tag on the automobile utilized by Timothy McVeigh, Terry Nichols, and a man identifying himself as Bob Jacques during a November 94 visit to the WMR office was an Oklahoma tag. Maloney believes that the license tag bears the numbers 3 and 5 in the 4th and 5th positions, respectively, in a 6-character configuration. The tag also most likely had an American Indian-style pipe separating the first 3 characters from the second 3. Then he goes, Maloney recalled additional information regarding the license tag of the automobile utilized by Tim McVeigh, Terry Nichols, and Bob Jacques during a November 94 visit by the 3 men to the office of WMR. The bottom right corner of the license tag was bent, thus blocking a full view of the 6th character, but the left side of the 6th character had curvature consistent with a 6, 9, or 0. Maloney also believes the first 3 characters of this Oklahoma license tag to be HWJ. Maloney then provided the possible combinations for the full license tag as set forth below. And then you have HWJ in combinations of 356, 359, 350, 856, 859, 850. Says, I have not yet seen an APB for a 1977 colorless yellow cream colored 4-door Mercury Monte Carlo hybrid with Arizona, Missouri, and Oklahoma plates, but I'll let you know when I do. Either way, the Maloney visit can't be discounted out of hand as a well-meaning but mistakenly concocted shared hallucination solely based on the claim that the visitors arrived in a car too closely resembling McVeigh's not yet purchased 1977 yellow Mercury. The FBI must have known this at least because they questioned scores of people who owned a late 70s, early 80s Monte Carlo Thunderbird or Mercury with Arizona plates. Now, I'll just go ahead and say what I'm thinking. It looks to me like as if, I don't know, I'm not saying coaxed or... it almost seems like, I don't know, they may not have liked the results they got the first time around. Let's keep going. So, of all the inconsistencies and all small details forgotten by Maloney, I do want to add that there's obviously my commentary, and that's nothing Wendy said, or so who knows. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she'll say something otherwise here coming forward, but it looks a little suspect to me. 8, of all the inconsistencies and all small details forgotten by Maloney, Young, and Davidson, perhaps one of the most imperative concerns the date of the visit given by all 3 at one time or another, respectively, as fall, November, early November, the first half of November, November 1st, and November 2nd, 1994. In McVeigh's case, knowing the date is crucial to determine if his being at Maloney's was even possible. His defense attorney, Stephen Jones, later told reporters that his client had been elsewhere when the 3 visitors showed up in Cassville, Missouri. And while I don't know for certain that Jones had in mind what Jones had in mind when he said that, it is likely he meant McVeigh was either at his father's in what I think Western New York is what WNI stands NY stands for, or at one of a few gun shows he attended for which he did have strong alibis. At least on certain days in late October and early November 94, although not on all of them. Depending on which day, the alibi might consist of multiple eyewitness reports, motel or phone records, or some combination of these, although the latter might not be as tight as it first appears if it relies solely on the Bridges calling card, of course. But as long as the dates in the Maloney accounts are just best guesses, it's difficult to say for sure. In one explanation of where he was on November 2nd, 94, the most often reported date of the Maloney visit, McVeigh said he left Kingman on October 30th, arriving in Western New York on November 3rd, 94. Along the way, he stopped in New Mexico, where he saw a Soviet missile character, jumped the median with his car, and traveled alongside it, taking pictures and jotting down identifying information. Okay, buddy. Says for his part, after he'd already agreed to testify on behalf of the prosecution, Fortier said McVeigh never discussed looking for land in Missouri and never knew anyone named Jacques or Jacks or Jacques. Here's a photo of Fortier in his military uniform and his what do they call these? They're greens, I think, in the Army is what they call them. This isn't exactly helpful, however, in light of the curated nature of what Fortier ultimately did and didn't say. It says, and while Nichols sometimes passively gives hints about the Jack situation, he ultimately denied going to Maloney's, at least from what I've seen. Here's a picture of Nichols. Yes, he said he'd shopped around for land in Missouri, although he was fuzzy on when exactly. McVeigh, he said, had even accompanied him once, but waited in the car as he did his business. Okay. So yeah, Nichols said, yeah, he shopped around. Okay. Except for the exclusion of Jacques and the McVeigh person sticking his head into the office briefly and nervously, that story is similar to what the folks at Maloney said. Nichols came in to inquire while McVeigh waited outside in the car. They absolutely didn't case federal buildings in Missouri, though. McVeigh claimed that they were just more let me say that again. I'm getting all tongue-tied. McVeigh's claims that they had were just more of McVeigh's lies, he said. Yes, he'd traveled somewhat near there at various times a couple of years earlier, alone and looking for construction work, and on one of these trips, he talked to a blueberry farmer whose name in July 95 he said he could not recall. It says, Nichols said that when he returned to the area by himself later in March 1992, he stopped in Harrison, Arkansas to speak with some realtors about buying or leasing property in the area. He said he also put in applications for work with a construction company while in Harrison. He said he talked to the blueberry farmer, name not recalled, who had a farm about 10 miles east of Harrison. He said he also put in an application for construction work in Branson, Missouri on his return trip to Decker. He said he did not travel to the Hot Springs, Arkansas area during this trip either. The previous month, in June 95, Nichols... Oh, no, I'm sorry. I already read that. Now, the blueberry farm thing came up on other occasions as well in accounts about Nichols given by both his brother and McVeigh. If his collection of business cards were any indication, Nichols had some kind of connection to someone somewhere in Missouri, even if just in passing. Here's a business card. It says, for the people, by the people, Missouri 51st Militia. This is in Grain Valley, Missouri, so he's got that card. So add that to this little connection here. Goes 9. So while we know some things, some of the things we don't know for certain include, but are by no means limited to, the exact names they introduced themselves or each other as, the kind of car they drove, a precise description of the car, or when they drove it. She shared a quote from, I believe, I'm assuming, this is Rumsfeld, right? It says, as we know, there are known knowns. There are things we know. 2, we also know there are some things we don't know, but there are also unknown knowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know. So I think she was playing off the kind of the wording there, because it did trip me up a little bit with all the no's. As far as Maloney, I simply do not know why his account appears to shift and change in the peculiar ways it does. It may be that because narrative memory is proven to be mutable without being intentionally deceptive, Maloney's exposure to certain information influenced the changing of details he recalled. Totally possible. Or it could be that the more Maloney reflected on the events, the more he legit remembered or realized he'd been mistaken about in his earlier accounts. However, some of the changes could just as plausibly have resulted from the specific details the FBI agent writing a report chose to emphasize or even inserted intentionally or through carelessness. Undoubtedly, a myriad of other reasons could account for the inconsistencies. Again, I just don't know, but the debunking account's failure to consider and account for them feels, at best, kind of weak. Regardless, and for what it's worth, on July 17, 1996, Maloney was quite willingly subjected to a polygraph examination about the visit, which was found to be not deceptive, so he passed, on these points. So now here is the polygraph report that we can read. Not that I've read these a whole lot, so not that I really know what I'm looking at, but data report, 7/18/96, date of examination, 7/17/96, Bureau file number, you guys don't care about all the numbers, field agent office, Oklahoma City, authorizing official, inspector in charge of the Oklahoma City bombing, examinee name, Maloney, William Madison Maloney, case title, Oklahoma City bombing. All right, let's get into the body of this. Case synopsis / examiner conclusion. A few days after the bombing of the federal building in Oklahoma City, Maloney contacted the FBI. Maloney told the interviewing agents during early November 94, Terry Nichols and a man who identified himself as Jacques with CQ or Jacques CK came into Maloney's real estate office. Jacques was interested in a 40-acre tract of land in the middle of nowhere at the end of a rough road at the bottom of a hollow. All trees, no open land, there may be a cave for $18,000. According to Maloney, while himself and his associate were talking with Nichols and Jacques, Tim McVeigh came into the office to see how much longer Nichols and Jacques were going to be in the office. Maloney made small talk with McVeigh and observed McVeigh to have a filling in one of his back teeth. Extensive investigation into this information has proven to be unproductive in identifying the person who identified himself as Jacques CK or Jacques CQ. Maloney, who asked to take a polygraph and readily agreed, was asked to take a polygraph and readily agreed. On 7/17/96, Maloney came to the Super 8 Motel in Cassville, Missouri, after signing a waiver of his right and after signing a consent to interview with polygraph form. Maloney was polygraphed. Examiner's conclusions. It is the opinion of the examiner. The examinee, when responding to relevant questions, was not deceptive. Those relevant questions and examinee's responses were as follows. Now, does it show? All right, now here are the 3 questions. Did you meet with Terry Nichols and a man identified as Jacques? To that, he responded yes. That was found to be not deceptive. 2. Did Tim McVeigh come into your office during your conversation with Nichols and Jacques? Yes, is what he answered. That came up as not deceptive. 3. Are you making up any of the information you provided to the FBI? No, he answered. That was determined to be not deceptive. Maloney, you are not the father. All right, I couldn't help it. But, all right, yeah, obviously, he's at least according to him. I mean, obviously, polygraphs are fallible, but kind of looks like he, yeah. 10. Speaking of narrative memory, Gell's hypnosis of Young was not the only Cassville, Missouri-related hypnosis performed. Although it is the only official one that I'm aware of. And then she quote tweeted something here. It says in mid-October 1995, one of the Maloney employees received a strange. This is from earlier. Just referring to the one we talked about in the previous episode about the Nora Young hypnosis. All right, let's keep going. The issue rises once again among FBI reports about Lauren, a woman who saw, among other things, 3 men transferring blue barrels into a Ryder truck about 20 miles from Cassville the morning of April 15th, 1995. She said she attempted to report her sighting in early June 95 by calling the Oklahoma City bombing tip hotline, but was told her information wasn't helpful. Over a year later, still haunted by what she observed, she took it upon herself to visit a certified hypnotist at Celestial Horizons Incorporated, a nearby New Age bookstore. Okay, here's an ad for it. This Celestial Horizons thing. It says books and gifts. You get a hand-blown glass drink stirrer here. You'll find pottery, garden decor, unique books on UFO phenomena, crystals, jewelry, and many other treasures located inside. Okay. Here's another ad of them. It says for a wooden incense burner. Ah, dang it. More Celestial Horizons things. Where peace of mind begins. Okay. After that, she was interviewed at length by the FBI twice, although the reports, while very detailed, tended to play up her flakiness. It is unknown if they checked with Celestial Horizons about the session or what flavor of incense was burning there that day, if they did. Nor did it appear she was shown the Jacques sketch despite the proximity of her sightings. Nor was Gels the only controversial shrink to get involved in the Jacques issue. At some point, McVeigh's defense team hired Elizabeth Loftus. Anyone who's a religious watcher of this show has heard of that name come up before in our False Memory Syndrome Foundation series, who specialized in memory studies and who in these circles is perhaps best known for her work with the False Memory Syndrome Foundation. So here is Wendy shared something of some excerpt from something here. Let's read it. Subject memory expert, it says. Copy of Elizabeth Loftus' Vita follows. I last consulted with her in June 95. At that time, her fee was $375 an hour, and she had testified nearly 200 times on the subject of memory and memory distortion. I consulted with her in a civil case, a false memory syndrome case, where we suspected that there were multiple abusers and our client was the family scapegoat. After naming Elizabeth as our expert and joining other family members to the suit, it settled promptly. She is not off the deep end. She is well respected. As we discussed, she presented a study demonstrating that a person's memory can be infected/altered/enhanced through suggestion. Caveat: I'm sure that there are transcripts of the government, considering the unusual subject matter, would find something in to use against her, and you would want to carefully explore her testimony in other cases. If it doesn't work out, I have at least one other expert in mind. And here's one of Loftus's book, The Myth of Repressed Memory, False Memories, and Allegations of Sexual Abuse. It says word search Loftus here for some links, and it provides a link to cavdef.org, which I haven't really spent too much time exploring that, but I've heard nothing but good things, so I recommend you do the same. So some pages from the 28-page CV provided to them by Loftus. She provides, here's just some more stuff. This is more on her background. So her personal data, Department of Psychology, at the University of Washington. That's where she was at. Her education, BA in Math and Psych. MA in Psych, so Master's and a PhD in Psych, teaching, assistant, she taught at Harvard, she visited at Harvard, she taught at University of Washington as a full professor, as an adjunct professor of law, I don't even know what the hell, so I guess an assistant professor or something, assistant associate, full professor, man, that's a lot of different adjectives to go along with professor, but anyways, I guess these are different levels of professor, but so yeah, she worked at the University of Washington, New School for Social Research, visiting at Harvard University, Georgetown, honors and awards, doctorate of science from Miami, doctorate from Leiden, so some of these like honorary stuff. She's in Phi Beta Kappa, Pi Mu Epsilon, Mortar Bar. I don't know if any of these things mean anything to anybody, but anyways, yeah, let's keep going. Here's more on it. I know we don't really need to go through all that. You guys can. I don't know, I'm trying to see if there's anything particularly that glows a ton in there. But I mean, obviously, it's Loftus herself. Like, I don't know. You just know her background. You know what's up. All right, let's keep going. And more. The point of hiring her as a consultant appears to be to find ways to deal with various eyewitnesses who saw McVeigh at various times in the plot, mainly in the week before the Oklahoma City bombing, with one notable exception listed toward the top of initial info provided to her. And here is a memo. This is from Stephen Jones to Scott Anderson. It says, send the material from Maloney. This is number 3. This is what's highlighted. From William Maloney in Cassville, Missouri, who claims to have seen Terry Nichols and Robert Jacques, thought to be John Doe 2, an alias for John Doe in Cassville, Missouri. Okay. And this is supposed to be this material to send to Loftus. So this is stuff they wanted to send her, stuff about the Maloney thing. So obviously getting into those claims, and her whole thing is memory. And then here's more here. It says, also be sure that you send to Elizabeth all of the facial identity charts. You can check with Rob and be sure we get all the ones in, and also send her anything that shows up in the name of Jean Boylan. She's the gal that did the sketch on unidentified subject number 2. So despite being an expert in human memory, Jones began to suspect that perhaps she had forgotten about her consultation gig with them. So here's another one of Jones' emails. And it goes, it's been months since we hired Elizabeth Loftus, and other than sending one small memo to me considering the artist, we have had absolutely nothing from her. What is the problem, and when are we going to get something from her that we can use? I want it orally first, not in writing, but this is getting ridiculous. We have a trial date, and we need to have something settled. Do we need to involve Steve Penrod in this? Ultimately, in late January 97, when McVeigh's trial was imminent, the Jones team received a report from her which, while not mentioning the Jacques sighting, perhaps gives an indication of why she was hired. And here's the report. So this is from Loftus, and it says, this is a survey conducted in December 96. It says, background of this case. It says, various witnesses connected to this case saw an individual on one occasion and later identified the individual from a photo spread consisting of 8 males. TJM, which I believe that's McVeigh's photograph, was in position 2. For example, witness Kessinger viewed an individual renting a Ryder truck on 4/17/95 and later identifies McVeigh from the photo spread on 4/30/95. Leah McGowan saw an individual rent a hotel room and later identified McVeigh from this photo spread on 4/26/96. Between the original exposure to the critical individual and the subsequent identification, TJM's McVeigh's photo or likeness would be shown on CNN in major newspapers and magazines. If key witnesses were exposed to McVeigh prior to their identification of him from a photo spread, a serious question arises as to whether the photo identification test was meaningful. If it can be shown that individuals who were unconnected to crime but were exposed to similar media coverage can pick out the photo, then the photo identification test can be considered biased. This is background for methodology. Psychologists have used a fairly straightforward procedure to investigate fairness of a photo spread. Say the photo lineup has 8 persons, including the suspect. If it is truly fair, that is no bias, then the probability that a person who did not even witness the crime or even events related to the crime will identify the defendant is 1 or 8 in 8 or 12.5%. Also, if the photo spread is fair, the person who did not witness the crime who had read a brief description of the culprit should still identify the suspect with only a 1/8 probability. To test a specific photo spread for bias, a psychologist goes out to interview a sample of people who are not connected to the crime. All right, you get the idea. So this is how they're trying to essentially, bias based on this getting leaked out to the media. And then here's more on that. This goes more into the methodology, the specific way they carried out this study. And then we can get to the conclusion here, because that's really what matters with these, at least for what concerns us here. It says individuals who were exposed to media coverage, including including photos and other representations of McVeigh, can pick out his photo from the photo spread constructed by the FBI. To the extent that actual witnesses connected to the case were similarly exposed to media coverage, it is highly likely the face of McVeigh would be familiar and that photo-based familiarity could be a basis for selection of the face from the photo spread. Caveat: although the percentage of individuals in the survey who picked the photo of McVeigh was high, I make no claims about what which is over 75%. I make no claims about what the exact percentage might be in a larger survey. Okay, all right. Final comments, as Brian Cutler and Stephen Penrod say in their 95 book, Mistaken Identification. It's funny they mentioned Penrod again here, since that's the one apparently they're able to use to get her to do stuff. I don't know what to make of that, but it's interesting. So his book, Mistaken Identification, difficulties arise if a lineup contains people who appeared previously in mugshots. This would also be true if a photo spread contains a person who has previously viewed in photos or on TV. Cutler and Penrod cite several studies showing that persons appearing in identification tests who also appeared in prior photos may be at greater risk for false ID and may even be identified at a rate similar to the rate at which the actual culprit is identified. More recently, Loftus, in her capacity as a memory expert, testified in some very interesting cases. And then so you can see here, Robert Durst's 2020 trial for murder. She's also got Ghislaine Maxwell's 2021 trial for sex trafficking, and also Harvey Weinstein's 2020 trial for rape and sexual assault. She's also been involved with Ted Bundy, O.J. Simpson, Rodney King, Oliver North, Martha Stewart, Louis Libby, Michael Jackson, the Menendez brothers, and obviously, as we're talking about here, the Oklahoma City bombing. This is the bombers. So I guess she was. I thought she was only used in the Nichols case, but I would assume that might imply she was used in the McVeigh case too. Because I think in this example that we're kind of talking about here, no, it was Jones, so that would be McVeigh. So I guess she was used somewhat in both. So, there is a sense in which some of the Maloney sighting debunking is reminiscent of some of Loftus's own work. So you can see here, so it says tips led agents on many paths going nowhere, and she circled here to bring attention to in this article. It says Maloney reportedly passed a lie detector test, but details of his story may show how the power of suggestion after the bombing led honest people to be mistaken. So see, there you go. It's just from the debunking. You can already see Loftus's, influence, you could say. Additional Maloney / Jacques citing fun facts and / or commentary in no particular order. Some, but not all, to be elaborated on in future writing. Here we go. 11. Don Thrasher, one-time investigative partner of sorts to Roger Charles prior to Charles' stint on McVeigh's defense team, once opined that Jacques was a mysterious guest seen in a blurry photograph of Terry Nichols' Philippine wedding. All right. Well, that's interesting. If there's a less blurry photo, I have not seen it. Unknown to Thrasher was that this man was just another sex tourist staying at the Sex Tourist Hotel, accompanied by a friend of Nichols' wife, one of the desirable tour guides like herself, who'd gone herself caught up in the international Jack sweep. Which that is something, I don't know if Wendy's about to go in there, but it is definitely a topic worthy of discussion. I've heard people get at a little bit, because we do. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there is more. Maybe it is just simple as these are just straight up mail order brides. But I think it's I mean, you guys. I trust my audience can do 2 and 2 here. So yeah, I think there's a reason why Wendy's putting tour guides in quotes here. Tour guides. I mean, yeah, this is Thailand. Or Philippines. No, I always mix up Philippines, Thailand. At least according to McVeigh's defense investigators, at the conclusion of one stage of the investigation. Likewise, a Canadian named Robert Jacques, who flew from the Philippines to Hong Kong in March 95, didn't pan out. Again, at least according to McVeigh's defense investigators, at the conclusion of one stage of their investigation. If the key to Jacques was found by other investigators to be related to Nichols' trips to the Philippines, it is unknown to me. Could be such a key was found after McVeigh's defense team and concluded its investigation. Apologists may disagree, but either way, I'm of the strong opinion that the sex trafficking ring, there you go, so I guess she is getting into it. You know what, I knew that, I read this thread already, but I couldn't recall if she had explicitly gone into it, there's something I recall from somewhere else. But either way, I'm of the strong opinion that the sex trafficking ring uncovered by McVeigh's investigators involving girls as young as 14 by the same quote-unquote mail-order bride company should have been more closely investigated independently of the Oklahoma City bombing case. Yeah, I think even Marifay, I think she was underage, if I recall, at least when they first started. I don't know, I forget the timeline and her age and all that, but not looking good. As noted, the FBI noted that the Jack sketch and witness descriptions it was based on resembled ARA bank robber Richard Guthrie. And while neither the sketch nor the descriptions bore more than a passing resemblance to Guthrie, it's more strikingly resembled a much more elusive and highly trained man seen and known by others elsewhere in the deserts of Arizona. Both my co-interviewer and I saw a hardened man shake and wilt when questioned about that man. Same guy? Up for debate, but that man's existence is intriguing and consequential. Nevertheless, in my opinion, as well as the opinions of the more seasoned investigators and myself who were on the ground floor of the initial Oklahoma City bombing investigation. Speaking of which, in 98, reporter Kevin Flynn noted, posted in full because too lengthy to summarize at the moment, so let's just go ahead and read the whole thing. Screw it, why not? So it says, the Rocky Mountain News learned in December that a Robert Jacques, with Z at the end, in Odessa, Texas, had shared a post office box after the bombing with an acquaintance of McVeigh's, Jim Rosencrans of Kingman, Arizona. After the news questioned several people in Odessa about Jacques, with a Z, the FBI sent agents there to interview many of the same people. One of the most intriguing chapters in the search for Robert Jacques involves a down-on-his-luck rustabout in Odessa, Texas. His name is spelled Jacques with a Z. He had somehow escaped notice in the FBI's coast-to-coast canvassing. Jacques, with a Hispanic spelling, it was one of 4 spellings the FBI used in its nationwide hunt, but for unexplained reasons not in Texas, which has a large Hispanic population. Jacques' whereabouts during the brief time that Jacques, CKS, is reported traveling with McVeigh, and Nichols can't be firmly established. He quit his oil-filled job in Odessa in September 94 and returned the following July, 3 months after the bombing. He told many friends in Odessa, at work, at his favorite bar, and in his personal life, that he had been in El Paso, Texas. What is true from Christmas through July, or that is true from Christmas through July. But his whereabouts on November 2nd, 94, the date of the Maloney real estate meeting in Missouri are... Is this out of order, or did I read this wrong like an idiot? Okay. He told many friends in Odessa. Okay. Okay, well, I think this might be out of order or something went wrong. Either way, we'll just pick up wherever this is at. Robert Jacques of Odessa died January 17, 1997 after an industrial accident. Rosencrantz quit his oil field job 3 weeks later and returned to Kingman. The same man. Who was Robert Jacques of Odessa? Could he have crossed paths with McVeigh and Nichols? Despite the incredible coincidence of sharing the post office box with McVeigh's friend Rosencrantz, it is still unlikely that this Jacques is the man seen in Maloney's real estate office. The news sent 9 family photos of the Texas Jacques to the Missouri witnesses. They say it wasn't the same man they saw. But a former girlfriend of Jacques looked at the sketch drawn from Maloney's description and had an immediate reaction. "That's him," Teresa Anderson said. "What did he do?" Going undercover. Robert Jacques was born in Pecos, Texas in 1954. In 1990, Jacques and Rodrigo Robles formed R&R Rustabout Services. They worked as contract laborers for drilling companies, a common practice by companies to avoid paying benefits. Robles told the news they made more than $100,000 a year. Jacques, he said, had dreams of success. He always wanted people to look at him as an important person, Robles said in an interview in his home. Robles' wife, Rosa, agreed and found it plausible that Jacques would work undercover for police. "It wouldn't surprise me," she said. "I hear he could spin some tales. Just from the type of person he was, he wanted to be somebody. A lot of times he wouldn't want to speak Spanish. After running into income tax problems, he broke up his partnership with Robles in 1993 and worked for Black Warrior." Okay, I think there I see what happened. She put him in the wrong order. Okay, whatever. I guess we'll just skip one because I think we'll throw it off otherwise. All right, whatever. I'm actually just gonna leave it for you guys. Actually, I'll read the highlighted portions because maybe that's because I do think these are a little bit out of order. So, but the FBI has yet to take Jacques' picture to the witnesses in Missouri, and then also never mind, that was all she highlighted in there. So. I don't know. Actually, screw it. I'll read this last one because I already read most of it anyway. So it might be completely out of order. I don't know the correct order here, but let's go ahead and read it anyways. It says, Wireline, he quit that job in September 94 and left Odessa. The next time Jacques can be placed anywhere for certain is Christmas Eve 94 after the Missouri sighting of Robert Jacques. On that day, Jacques was arrested at the Fort Bliss military base in El Paso for trespassing. He listed himself as unemployed, and he said he'd been living with his sister. February 6, 95, Jacques went to work for C.F. Jordan Construction Company in El Paso. As part of a 10-man labor crew, he drew steady checks. According to his personnel office, all through the date of the bombing until his last day on July 13th. Okay, so that's important. So that's that eliminates him from consideration as the elusive John Doe 2, seen with McVeigh and Nichols in the week before the bombing. But an air of mystery surrounds even the known facts around the Texas Jacques. His foreman at Jordan, David Long, examined the same photos of Jacques that the Missouri witnesses reviewed. Long said he'd never seen the person in the photos before, even though the news confirmed through Social Security records that Jacques was his employee. Okay, that's all right. Once back at work in Odessa as of July 31st, Jacques picked up with old friends and bragged about his undercover work. All right. Telling location lounge owner Moss that he was tied in with the El Paso police narcotics unit. The head of that unit refused to discuss Jacques. In June 96, Alday helped him get a job at ICO Spincoat, coating and shipping pipes for the oil fields. It was while on that job shortly before 11 a.m. on December 16th, 96, that Jacques was fatally injured. I see what you glowies are doing here. All right, a pipe moving machine. I feel like I've heard this story before too, by the way. So I'm not. Before even reading these threads. So, but anyways, a pipe moving machine caught his left arm, pulling it in and tearing it off. Maybe it was an aberration or something. It began to pull in Jacques' jacket, and the force choked him. He was taken to medical center hospital and was kept alive on a respirator for 3 weeks before his parents authorized doctors to remove him. He died on January 7th, 97, while his girlfriend Diana Stroud was with him. What a convenient time with all the Oklahoma City bombing stuff going on. Says, I had my hand on his heart and he just died, she recalled. Just another setup, is what it says. Jim Rosencrantz said he got the post office box the usual way, by plunking down money at the counter. He said he didn't ask for a specific box and was simply given one at random. He said he neither knew nor met Robert Jacques. The huge coincidence, he says, is nothing but an FBI attempt to get him in more trouble. It's probably just another setup deal the feds are doing, he said. Some kind of witch hunt game. They keep on looking up their expletive, as far as I care. Probably shit or something. They made their life miserable. Our lives have been ripped apart and destroyed already. The news discovered the post office box connection in December while researching Rosencrantz. Soon after the news asked a bombing case prosecutor about it, the FBI was in Odessa obtaining pictures of Jacques and showing them to people who knew Rosencrantz. Similarly, agents showed Rosencrantz pictures to people who knew Jacques. The FBI seemed to be asking whether Rosencrantz and Jacques ever were seen together. But the FBI has yet to take Jacques' picture to the witnesses in Missouri. The only people claim to have seen the mystery man with McVeigh and Nichols. So they have a picture of Jacques, but they never showed it to the witnesses who saw Jacques. All right, that makes sense. Jacques' family and friends rallied to his defense, saying he wouldn't have been involved with McVeigh. I was with Robert just about every single day, said drinking buddy Alday, though he can't account for Jacques' time when he was gone from Odessa. Whoever you're looking for is someone else, says Dora Lopez, the sister in El Paso with whom Jacques lived. My brother never, ever was involved with trash like that. Was this just a strange post-Oklahoma City bomb trick played on Rosencrantz, who was reportedly being surveilled prior to Oklahoma City bombing in connection with drug trafficking in the Kingman area? Or was there something more? Why wasn't this Jacques shown to the other Jacques witnesses? Flynn also noted, and here's a 302 here, says, Newsweek magazine was subpoenaed on June 26, 1995 for its subscription records on anyone named Robert Jacques with a CKS, Jacques CQUES, or Jacques JOCQUES. The subpoena also asked about a subscription delivered to a certain lakefront apartment in Toronto where Newsweek had a subscriber by that name. Okay. So did the subpoena have anything to do with this piece of mail found in McVeigh's Kingman mailbox, which McVeigh had some commentary about? And we can see, it says inventory made in the presence of Linda Willoughby. Inventory of person or property taken pursuant to the warrant. It says 1. Envelope from New Hampshire, specialty auto box. Ohio, Oklahoma, but Atlanta must be insurance company. 2. Envelope from P.O. Box, Mount Morris, addressed to Jennifer McVeigh. 3. Envelope from Newsweek. Okay. Livingston, New Jersey, to Mr. Robert Jacques. Handwritten address correction. Oh, shit. Envelope from, and then 4. Envelope from Gary Schlagen. Have It's a Wonderful Life Incorporated. That one probably doesn't matter as much. Okay. Wow. Okay, so that was in McVeigh's Kingman mailbox. And that was an envelope from Newsweek in Livingston, New Jersey from Robert Jacques. Okay, so this is why. Okay, so this is what with the Newsweek's. Okay. All right, interesting. And that was to Robert Jacques. All right. Interesting. 15. While the FBI had created the Jacques sketch, and while even in FBI reports he was occasionally referred to as John Doe 3, in June 96, the Jones team received this letter. So let's read this together. So this is... let me see who this is from. Dang it, I accidentally... Here we go. So it says, by facsimile mail, Stephen Jones, from Byron Rogers Federal Building. I'm trying to look for the name on this. All right. Whatever. Dear Mr. Jones, in response to your letters dated May 10th and June 13th, 96, in which you asked for any composite drawings for an individual identified as Jacques, CQUES, we've enclosed a composite drawing prepared on May 26, 95, based upon information provided by Joe Lee Davidson, William Maloney, and Nora Young. Please note this drawing has been listed in the evidence inventories that we provided you several months ago as 1A5254. As you mentioned in your May 10th letter, this drawing has sometimes been referred to as unsub composite number 3. This term is inapt. Jacques was investigated as possibly being unsub number 2. The individuals who had seen him believed that he looked quite similar to, but not precisely like, the original composite drawing of unsub 2. Accordingly, they assisted in creating the composite sketch of Jacques in an attempt to provide a better depiction of unsub 2. That is, one more consistent with their personal observations of Jacques, and not to identify another possible suspect. In short, the composite drawing of Jacques is merely another attempt by other witnesses to portray unsub number 2. And that's the... Oh, there we go. And that's the end of the letter. Like much else regarding the Jacques situation, this letter leads to more questions than it does answers. These include, but are not limited to, and I agree, that's as I'm reading this, and bringing up more questions. If the authorities did not know who John Doe was, how could they say for certain if Jacques was or was not the same man? As some witnesses did see 2 other men with McVeigh at different times, why couldn't there be a John Doe 3? While a couple of witnesses would later say that the Jacques sketch was closer to the man they say, many more do not seem to have, or if they did, this was not widely reported or noted. For their time of their first interview, all 3 Maloney witnesses said the man they saw somewhat resembled John Doe 2, but was not necessarily him. In fact, on that point, there's a stark consistency in and between their statements. How many other witnesses beyond those at Maloney's emphasized John Doe 2's very memorable nose, as all of the witnesses at Maloney's had, to the point that the initial sketch of him had to be changed to incorporate the prominent nose? If the sketch was done to make one that better conformed the Maloney witnesses' observations, how many other sketches beyond them were created for this same purpose? Were more boutique sketches created for John Doe 2 variants, and if so, where are they? If there was more merit to the sketch, as it appears the FBI believed the Jacques sightings merited, based on the extensive search of him, why does it seem to be shown only to members of McVeigh's cohort unit? 16. This concludes Part 6 of the ongoing thread series. Part 7 will continue with a chronology tentatively titled The Christmas Presents and the Construction Project. It says, although at this point I've learned the wisdom of holding off on the naming, as each part seems to cover less ground than intended or initially written. In conclusion, while I do not have answers to the questions I've posed, I believe they are worth asking, regardless, as I correctly or otherwise believe any unanswered questions I raise are, obviously. But at the very least, I believe this exercise in close reading demonstrates why one document or take, or even 4 of them, does not necessarily the truth of any matter make. All right, well, I appreciate you guys joining me today for this episode. That is all for today. We will be back sometime soon with, I guess Part 7, whenever that comes out, and then also any of the other regular stuff I'm doing. So keep an eye out for other interviews. But so I appreciate everyone joining me today. If you like what I'm doing over here and you want to support the show, you can, if you don't want to chip in money, because I get that, you can leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. Hell, even following me on Twitter helps boost my profile, helps me out. Follow me on Twitter at TowerGangJose. All little steps, all easy peasy things you can do. Don't even have to chip in a buck. But if you do want to chip in a buck, if you do really want to help out the show, I do appreciate that. You're under no compulsion to do so, but if you find value in your work and in this work, the work that I'm doing, hey, even as low as $2 a month, if you find $2 worth of value in what I do, then hell, send it my way over at patreon.com/nowayjose2020. And hey, I'll even try to send you even more value, and let me list off some of the value that you get back. You get early episodes. I've been doing exactly like the one you see right now. This is one of the paywalled episodes. I usually do between 1 to 3 of those a week. Try to keep around 4 behind the paywall on any given time, so there is weeks of paywalled content at any time. You also get access to an ad-free RSS feed. You also get access to the pre-show and priority for the call-ins on me and Austin's weekly live call-in show, Already Dead, which is on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Also, you get access to the Already Dead Telegram, which is where both of our audiences can meet up and talk. There were people who even gave me questions for the episode that was initially planned for today. Just a great vector for community engagement, and all you need to do is support the show at least once. You don't even have to. You can quit, and I'll never kick you out unless you cause problems in there or something. So you're there forever, $2, and you get to hang out with the group forever. So pretty good deal. And the highest level, those are my Patreon sponsors, and they shell out the big bucks, and for that I give them the big thanks. And thank you, Toad at Tarragang, or at Learn to Toad actually, at Abrogate D's, at ZOVRECK, at _Infant Seal, Tim Tuttle, at John Klebold, Will Bells, Delicious Blueberry Rabbit Eye Wine, big fan of the show, Torrin May, and Jordan Peterson. And with that, guys, we're out of here. Love you all. Deuces.